March 17th, 2026. Dear Diary, I've been taking some time to reflect lately on my whole experience creating Over My Dead Body, and there's one question that I can't seem to get out of my head. How did my production skills develop throughout this project? To be completely honest, I started from nothing. Sure, I'd watched a ton of movies before beginning my journey, but I'd never really understood just how much goes into producing a piece of media. The first thing we had to do in order to start the whole process was choose our team members. Since I had already become friends with Hannah and grew to understand her work ethic, she was the obvious choice. After joining forces with Hannah, we still wanted another person to help delegate tasks to and to bring new ideas to the table. This is when we kind of adopted Tyler. Once we had formed our group, we sat down and came up with what we wanted our film to look like. We watched film openings such as Legally Blonde and Knives Out to gain inspiration. After brainstorming for hours, we confidently landed on the genres of mystery, drama, and detective fiction. After this, it was proposed to us by our teacher that we look more into Judith Butler's theories of gender and put a focus on female representation. We absolutely loved this idea, and with the introduction of this key element, we were able to seriously understand how gender is represented in films and how expectations of common tropes can be subverted. With the main concepts already developed, it became time to hash out the details, aka work on a storyboard. We had practiced creating a few short storyboards in class, but it was nothing compared to the monstrosity that was the storyboard for Over My Dead Body. I had no idea just how many little boxes it would take to properly flesh out an idea. We went through every single shot, noting camera angles, lighting, sound, and mise-en-scène. Because of this, I now know how necessary it is to plan before beginning production. When it came to assigning roles and figuring out the logistics, it was a bit more complicated than I anticipated. Finding a location was the easy part. I suggested my house as it matched the mise-en-scène we envisioned. Scheduling was a hassle to say the least though, as it was almost impossible to find a day when we were all free. Casting was a bit of a battle as well. Neither Hannah nor I initially wanted to star in the film. We wanted to be behind the scenes. After thinking it over and creating the storyboard though, we realized that only we knew how we wanted the film to look, and so we decided that we would be actors. Also, recognizing scheduling was an issue, we didn't want to make things any more complicated by reeling in more people. Tyler stepped up to become the main camera operator and director. Having this role, a majority of the footage was already on his phone. Therefore, he also became the editor out of convenience. Now that I'm writing it out, it seems like Hannah and I didn't contribute much, but that couldn't be any more wrong. We took on the roles of creative directors, meaning we were in charge of ensuring everything fit our vision. Though Tyler did a great job executing what we had on the storyboard, it was Hannah and I's job to make sure he not only just shot the scenes, but brought them to life. My skill level absolutely developed throughout this entire process. I went from barely remembering what a camera roll was to using media language fluently. I also learned a lot about myself. I learned that I do struggle a bit with handing over control. Having someone else in charge of major aspects, such as editing and working the camera, was very hard for me, but had I not practiced it, I don't think I would have been equipped to handle it in the future. I developed my editing skills greatly as well. I took over editing a few times to ensure everything was smooth and cohesive with our vision. At the start of this project, I could barely use a CapCut template, but now I can easily navigate its features. The creation of our logos and credits was really fun. For our logos, we decided to design one with the mystery genre and one with the general media industry in mind, hence Visionary Productions and Secret Studios. For our credits, we took a lot of inspiration from Anatomy of a Murder. We loved the idea of a chalk outline and black and white text on the screen. We also learned a lot about how to structure and order these credits in terms of what roles to put first and last. I think my ability to accept criticism also improved tremendously. Since we created multiple drafts and received feedback on them, I was constantly given things to fix, and this repeated exposure is what gave me such a thick skin. Some of our feedback was so important that we ended up having to reshoot most of our film. However, since I learned that criticism only leads to a better product, I was okay with this. If it wasn't for reshooting, our product would not have become as good of quality. In all, my production skills improved drastically, and with this improvement, I also slowly fell in love with filmmaking. XOXO, Kala.